Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 31 of our TCW save. In TEW 2020, this is Total Wrestling for May. Week 1, Total Mayhem month is here, and this kicks off the official road to Total Mayhem. We have a big show with a lot of significant storylines to get to. So, let's jump right in. And by the way, if you haven't caught up on the series yet, I know we took a little bit of a break for a couple months, but if you haven't caught up on the series, you can go back last couple episodes. You can see them there. Of course, we had the pay-per-view where Angels Fear to Tread as well. So get caught up on that, state of, and everything, because this is where, again, things officially sort of hit the starting point for Total Mayhem. So here we go. We start off with the two people we saw at the end of Where Angels Fear to Tread. That was Wolf Hawkins. That was Aaron Andrews, face-to-face in the middle of the ring, all by themselves. They sort of called off their sort of help, and it was these two in the ring, and Wolf was the one that backed off to kind of end the pay-per-view. This gets a 98. Tremendous stuff, of course. We all know what's going on here. So Kyle Rhodes officially makes the announcement. It is going to be Wolf Hawkins challenging Aaron Andrews for the TCW World Heavyweight Championship at Total Wrestling, based on the guarantee. Of course, we know Wolf, the King of Kings, he is officially getting his shot after, Aaron Andrews has been able to defend his title over the past several months. This is the match that everyone has wanted to see, and fans are going to get it at Total Mayhem. So we get Kyle Rhodes announcing this. Again, 98, great segment between these two. Then, as he's making this announcement to the crowd, they're going crazy, they're excited here about this big match that's been announced for the biggest pay-per-view of the year. All of a sudden, the crowd starts to buzz a little bit because here comes One Man Army. And you guys know by now, One Man Army has taken a beating unlike anybody else than we've probably ever booked in any series we've ever booked in TEW. This guy he has taken a beating from the Syndicate at this point. But even with the loss to Eddie Chandler at Where Angels Fear to Tread, and even with a beatdown from the Elite, this man is not going to give up. He said it from the start. He will not give up. And so Army's limping to the ring, visibly, not himself here, right? And he comes in the ring. Kyle Rhodes is like, come on. Like, I always joke. I'm like, what do you think Kyle Rhodes calls him? Is he going to call him One Man, or is he going to call him Army? I think he probably calls him Army. And Rhodes is just like, you need medical assistance here. You're going to need some assistance. What are you doing out here? And One Man Army just makes it very clear. I'm here because I want a match with Nate Johnson, and I want it tonight. And that's all One Man Army has to say here. He wants a match with Nate Johnson because, if you remember, it was Nate Johnson who interfered in that match against Eddie Chandler, Where Angels Fear to Tread. That cost Army the match. More usual Elite interference. So he wants a match with Nate Johnson here tonight, and Kyle Rhodes just kind of looks at him as he walks off. So it seems like we could potentially get that match tonight. We'll find out. Maybe Kyle Rhodes will update us at some point in the show if we're going to get that match. So 66 here for this segment. But we're not done because as One Man Army starts to walk off, and Kyle Rhodes looking at him, trying to see what's going on here, all of a sudden, here comes Wolf Hawkins. And so One Man Army has started to walk off. He walks kind of back to where he was here. He's not afraid of Wolf Hawkins. We've seen that. This guy, if he was, he wouldn't keep, doing this. He wouldn't keep coming back, right? So let's get to 78. And Army's looking around. He's very intense here because he's looking around. He knows what's next. He knows the Elite are about to come out, and we're going to get a beatdown, right? Just like he's taking a beating. And so Army's just putting his hands up saying, come on. Like, I was out of here, but you want to fight? Let's fight. I'll keep going. And, again, this guy is clearly visibly not 100% here. But Wolf comes out, and we see him kind of walk over to Kyle Rhodes. Army's kind of right there, in the corner where he was about to leave the ring. And Wolf just says, hold on a second. I know what all these people think I'm going to do. But let me just tell you, let me just calm your mind a little bit here. The Elite aren't here. They're not here tonight. And he says that they are not in the building right now. So I'm just telling you, I'm being honest with you. They're not here right now. And he says, but I actually wanted to come out here to say something. I see you coming out to this ring after the beatings that we have given you week after week, month after month, seemingly now. And Wolf says, I apologize for that. But, the crowd's not buying this, right? He's like, but you've earned my respect because you do. You keep coming back again and again and again. And he said, I've tried to put you away myself. We've tried to put you away, but you just keep coming back again and again and again. And Wolf just says, so I wanted to be a man about it. I wanted to come out here and say, you may be the person that we just may not be able to take out. You may be one of the lucky few that the syndicate cannot, rid TCW of once and for all. And so I just wanted to come say that to you, face to face, man to man. So as Wolf is kind of going on here, let's get to 78. Somebody else isn't buying this, and that's Aaron Andrews. So here comes Aaron Andrews, and he comes towards the ring. We've got Army back here, and we kind of see sort of a repeat that we saw at Rangel's Fear to Tread. If you remember, it was Aaron Andrews telling Sammy Bach, Angry Gilmore, hey, you guys get out of the ring. Like, it's okay. Like, I'll handle this. It's okay. And so we're back to where we were at the end of the pay-per-view. Andrews comes in. He sort of tells One-Man Army, you just go. Like, Andrews also looking around here. He's not buying what Wolf has to sell about the Elite not being there. He's not buying it. And you can see Andrews kind of guiding Army away, making sure the Elite aren't coming out, all this other stuff. So Wolf's in the ring. Aaron Andrews in the ring. Here they are. Your Total Mayhem main events. Back face-to-face once again. 89 for the segment. And this is when Aaron Andrews just said, come on. None of us are buying anything that you're saying. And Aaron Andrews says, but you know what? I'm not surprised because I know why you've come out here. I know why you're occupying yourself with all this other stuff and you're trying to sell the respect thing and all this other stuff. It's because you don't want to think about what Mr. Rhodes just announced here a few minutes ago. And that is the fact that you are going to have to get into the ring with me one-on-one to try to get back that World Heavyweight Championship that I beat you for. And, of course, Aaron Andrews is kind of, raising the tension here a little bit now. And he says he doesn't think Wolf's ready for the rematch because Wolf's been occupied with all this other stuff, whether it's all the problems with the syndicate, whether it's Chris Flynn, whether it's One-Man Army. Wolf's been finding a lot of other stuff to occupy himself with, all because he was too afraid to step in the ring one-on-one with him, Aaron Andrews, because he knows that he cannot beat him. He knows that at this point in their careers, Aaron Andrews has his number. And so we get Aaron Andrews kind of pushing that towards Wolf, saying, you're only talking about all this other stuff, you've got all this other stuff going on, only because you're trying to distract yourself from this match, knowing that I'm going to beat you, basically. And Wolf, just kind of smirking at this a little bit and just saying, look around you. He says, I'm a man of my word. And Wolf says, there's no Elite. If I wanted to take that title off you by the easiest means that I could, I would have the Elite waiting right behind you right now to take you out and have you right where I wanted you for that match in 4 weeks at Total Mayhem. But I don't, because I have a different approach this time. Yes, I know everything that's happened over the past 4 or 5 months now. I know all the wars that we've been in, inside of cages, outside of cages, in parking lots, outside of parking lots. He says, this time around, my approach is different. Because you're right. It's one-on-one at Total Mayhem, and I'm going to prove that I don't need anyone to help me beat you to gain what is rightfully mine, that is right there in your hands right now, and that is my TCW World Heavyweight Championship. It is coming home to the Syndicate, and we are going to prove once and for all that you can always delay the inevitable, but the inevitable is still inevitable, and that is that championship back around my waist and the Syndicate as the strongest force in professional wrestling. So, Wolf, this is kind of your usual, this feels like the go-home promo, right, for this big match, but it's not. We still got 4 weeks to get there, and you'll understand why this isn't the go-home segment soon enough, but still, these two, verbal sparring here, so we have a little bit of back and forth, and that's kind of your setup, where each man stands here 4 weeks away from the start of this pay-per-view. Wolf saying he's going to do this alone, and Andrew saying that this has all been a distraction because he knows deep down inside he can't beat him for that title. So, 89 for the segment. So, step one complete towards this big match. But we'll talk about more of that soon enough. All right, tag team action here. Aaron Andrews, Wolf Hawkins leaving the ring. We get the tag team action. The momentum continues for Troy Tornado and Ernest Youngman as they get the win over Divine Fortune here. Daryl Divine, Chance Fortune, 10-15. And it is Troy Tornado getting the pin on Chance Fortune with the Star Maker. So, again, we're pushing the theme here that Ernest Youngman not only letting Troy Tornado in the match, but a couple in a row now here that Troy Tornado's actually been able to be the one to get the pin. And so we've come a long way from Ernest Youngman not letting Troy Tornado even get involved in these matches, but they get another win here. And you could say they're one of the hottest tag teams in TCW right now, based on this run they've been on over the past couple months. The match gets a 72, pretty good stuff. Youngman with a 71. He's the best, of course, as usual. But what's notable is afterwards, because in a 69 segment, nice rating here, it is announced by Kyle Rhodes on commentary that we are going to have a TCW Tag Team Championship match next week, as it is going to be Mighty Meaty, Mighty Mo, and Tana the Mighty defending their Tag Team Championships against the hottest team in TCW right now, Troy Tornado and Ernest Youngman. So a big tag team match for the titles next week. Not Total Mayhem. We're doing this next week here on Total Wrestling. So a huge match announced for next week, and Kyle Rhodes makes it clear that we will kick off the broadcast next week with this big tag team title match. So, all right, this match, not so good. Human Arsenal John Anderson gets the win over Seth Whitehead, 8-18. The pinfall with the ammo dump. So the segment gets a 40, or excuse me, the match gets a 47 here. Clearly, no chemistry. Whitehead's a developmental guy. We're not really worried about this. It was just kind of a match. And the reason why is because we also hear Kyle Rhodes talking about, speaking of next week, he lets us know that we have, we talked earlier. We saw Wolf Hawkins. We saw Aaron Andrews both in the ring earlier. He says these two guys that we have announced this big title match for at Total Mayhem, they're both going to be in action next week on Total Wrestling. So we're setting up for a huge edition. We've got a tag team title match. Aaron Andrews is in action. Wolf's in action. And Kyle Rhodes lets us know that Wolf is going to go one-on-one with Human Arsenal John Anderson next week. So that's a big one-on-one match that's been signed. And he also tells us that Aaron Andrews is going to actually be in tag team action next week as he's going to team up with Ed Stone. So those two in action next week, and we get that all here. It's kind of the thread continues throughout this show of announcements for next week. So, tag team title match, Wolf versus Human Arsenal, and Aaron Andrews and Ed Stone teaming up in tag team action. So, 47 for this one. All right, this match a little bit better. Angry Gilmore back on the scene here, and he gets a victory over Maverick, 737. The Sky High Elbow does it, 74. Again, we've talked about Gilmore. He is going to have the declining physical ability, but you guys know that we have put him in some big spots, and he is going to continue to be in some big spots as we move forward here, getting a win in action. So Gilmore with the victory, 71 for this one. After the match, Gilmore heads out, and someone else is headed towards the ring, and it is your favorite, everyone's favorite, and that is Freddy Huggins. Here comes Freddy Huggins and Matt Hawking as these two start to speed walk to the ring, and as they're doing it, we see Freddy Huggins being shielded by Matt Hawking here. And why is it? Because we see what is in Freddy Huggins' hand, and that is the letter. You guys remember what happened to the letter? Benny Benson decided that he was going to rip this thing up several weeks ago. That led to the tag team match where Huggins and Hawking got the win over Benson and Fox at Where Angels Fear to Tread. But Freddy is back with a new letter, and we are still waiting to hear the contents of this letter. We've not been able to because of the interruption there and all that. So we're kind of putting it together here, that they're speed walking to the ring because Freddy's like, I got to read this letter. And so they kind of shield the letter from Angry Gilmore, who's walking back, and Gilmore just kind of gives a smirk here towards him. He's just kind of laughing it off as Huggins and Hawking just speed walking to the ring here, clearly on a mission. But, Freddy gets to the ring. He's kind of circling around. He's like, where's a microphone? I need a microphone. He can't seem to find one. He's going over to Kyle Rhodes, begging for the microphone. No one can seem to find this microphone, right? So where is Freddy Huggins' microphone? Turns out there's no time for Freddy to worry about the microphone because here comes his opponent. He's in one-on-one action, 72 for this segment. So Freddy gets pissed because he doesn't have time to read the letter. Laura Catherine Huggins, she's pissed too. Again, she's kind of involved in all this. But so Freddy, they couldn't find the microphone. And Freddy's talking about conspiracy theories and all this other stuff about him not being able to read his letter. because he has to wrestle now. And he wrestles against the one and only main event Elliot Thomas. 76 for this match. So good stuff here from Freddy. Gets a 78 on this one. So Freddy, carrying it again. So Freddy just kind of working this match, pissed off essentially because he couldn't read his letter. 806 for the pinfall. The Huggins kiss does it. After the match, again, we didn't really have a spot to put this in, but we are kind of playing up that after the match, Freddy goes to try to read the letter again. And he's like, all right, I need to read this letter. And we see kind of Kyle Rhodes shielding him away. He's like, no, get away. He's like, we have to throw it to a big video package. And Freddy goes to read the letter, and the camera's just kind of, cut away from him. So Freddy denied reading the letter once again. Is he ever going to be able to read this letter? And if he does, what's he going to say? We don't know. We'll find out. 76 for this one. The camera cuts away, and Kyle Rhodes kind of pointing that we have to, get to something bigger. And that is the highlight package, looking at the winning streaks of both Joshua Taylor and TBone Bright. This gets a 74 because those two, as we now know, it was made official at Where Angels Fear to Tread. It will be Joshua Taylor versus TBone Bright at Total Mayhem for the returning International Championship on the line. So a huge match signed based on the momentum of these two guys. So again, think back. This is kind of your throwback, old school video highlight package where we're seeing, highlights from Joshua Taylor's wins, highlights from T-Bone's wins over the past several months, and sort of these two now on course to battle it out for the returning International Championship. Somebody's got to lose in that match. Who's it going to be between these two who are as confident as anyone in TCW right now? So really just putting over these two here on that. So 74 for this one. Then we get the tag team action. So it is notable here. The Behemoths are in action. Of course, that's Killer Shark and Titan. They do get the win over Dazzling Dave Diamond and Guillotine in 801. Titan with the Titan pin Guillotine with a Titanic choke slam. So obviously Guillotine's the weak link. He's a developmental guy as well, but he's got some interesting skills. So we put him in here with Dazzling Dave. And of course, we couldn't put this match over 8 minutes. Looks like we went 801, so a second too much for Dazzling Dave when it comes to stamina. I'm curious if he actually got the bonus or the, penalized for stamina. Of course he was. We went 8 minutes. But we did make this a wild brawl. So they went all out. So we give Dave a little bit of credit for going all out here. But you can't even do an 8-minute match with Dave if it's all out. So, he's the barroom brawler. So spending too much time there, I guess. 62 here on the rating for this one. But we are noting, Kyle Rhodes noting on commentary, it is just Killer Shark and Titan here. Nick Booth ringside, but there's no Eddie Peak. There's no Doug Peak. Where is Eddie Peak? Remember, they lost the tag team title match to Mighty Meaty at Where Angels Fear to Tread. Eddie was pissed off as usual. And so where is Eddie? Where is Doug? They're not here. So the Behemoths take care of business, though. 62, except for the match rating here. All right, now we get to Sammy Bach going one-on-one with Roderick Remus here. 15:03 for this one. We went 15 minutes for this one between Bach and Remus. 78, so pretty good match here between these two. I think they've had a singles match before. I want to say it was all the way back in January. So we did this a while back. But, a rematch here 5 months later. Pretty good stuff. I mean, we've said it. Sammy's going to get knocked for the declining physical ability, but he's over as can be as we looked at his popularity ratings and all that. Remus is not a bad talent. We just haven't gotten there with him yet. We do have some ideas for him that will start to play out soon, but just haven't got there with him so far. But he's got some good skills, and we'll see if we actually get there. But, of course, come on. This isn't just your basic Sammy Bach versus Roderick Remus match, right? There's going to be more to this. So what happens after the match? Well, there's two people we haven't seen yet. You know who it is. 87 for the rating. Here comes Jake Horde. Here comes Greg Gage. As they, once again, are the guys who just come out of nowhere. They're sneaky. And these guys just jump Sammy Bach as he's exiting the ring. Sammy's over there high-fiving fans. All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, here comes Jake Horde and Greg Gage from the other side of the crowd. So they now jump Sammy Bach. So they're going after Sammy Bach here. Chaos as usual involving these two. Always trying to get the upper hand, right? Jake Horde, this guy is just, he'll do anything to get the upper hand. And we know that is a match that is officially set for Total Mayhem. Jake Horde versus Sammy Bach. The contract was signed at Where Angels Fear to Tread. And remember, that was when Jake Horde kind of got a little bit of a cheap shot in on Sammy Bach. Jay essentially trying to finish the job here after Bach is in one-on-one action. So they go to try to jump Sammy Bach here. 87 for the segment. But you guys know, there's a couple people who's not going to let that stand. And it is Aaron Andrews and Ed Stone who are the ones who make the save for Sammy Bach this time around. Of course, usually it's kind of been angry Gilmore, but we are pushing that Gilmore, look, he had a match a little while ago. He's back in the showers, all this other stuff. So Gilmore is not available to come out here. But here comes Ed Stone, who, as we said earlier, Aaron Andrews and Ed Stone are going to team up next week because Wolf's in action, Andrews in action, and just so happens that Andrews in tag team action with Ed Stone. So here they come, and they make the save for Sammy Bach. So we got Aaron Andrews going at J Cord here, and we've got Ed Stone going at Greg Gage, which we've had a little bit of a verbal exchange between these two, over the past couple weeks, talking about, second-generation wrestlers and Greg Gage kind of saying that it was all about J Cord and him. No one else could come close to them based on what they've learned from their fathers. Stone cut the promo talking about how, hey, I am too, and everyone sees me as the black sheep, all this other stuff. So, the interaction makes sense, right? So these two come, they make the save, they run off J Cord and Greg Gage. We don't really get much physical contact here between these two, but they do run them off to make the save for Bach. So these two making the save for Sammy Bach, and that's when Kyle Rhodes tells us, all right, guys, we're going to commercial. We'll be right back. We kick this thing to commercial. 89 for this segment here. So when we come back, everybody's cleared out and all that. Unfortunately, in a 71 segment, here come the Elite. It is Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson. And so everything that Wolf said earlier about these two guys not being there, right? Well, here they are now. And, Kyle Rhodes kind of has been pointing that out. He's like, wait a second. Like, Wolf said these guys weren't here. Army made the challenge, all this other stuff. And so, yeah, what's happening? Why are they here? And, well, they're here, but they're not here alone. As you guys can see, they are dragging one-man Army to the ring here. And they then throw him into the corner. So we see them dragging one-man Army to the ring. Kyle Rhodes playing us up like this was all a big ruse from Wolf Hawkins, saying that the Elite were not here tonight, and it was all a setup to get to one-man Army and once again try to finish the job that they have not been able to finish for a long time now. They've been trying to get rid of this guy for a month or more, and they've not been able to do it. But now it seems like that's it, right? I mean, we saw one-man Army earlier. The guy's limping. He's taken out. He doesn't have much left at this point. So the Elite drag one-man Army to the ring, and, they're kind of laughing because, again, playing up sort of this whole ruse by Wolf Hawkins earlier, saying they weren't here. They throw him into the corner, and we can see, like, one-man Army a little busted up here. Like, he's out of it. This is it. Like, we haven't seen one-man Army like this before. This is it. It's time for them to deliver the final blow here to one-man Army. And just as we see Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson go to deliver the final blow, you guys know what's coming. 71 for this one. Behind these, all of a sudden, the crowd has lost their minds because they see someone standing right behind Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson. It causes these two to stop and turn around, and they turn around and find not Doc Hammond. They find Scout himself. He's got the helmet on. He's got the war paint on. He is standing behind the Elite. Of course, we know it's Doc Hammond, but he is in the Scout gear, and you better believe we changed it and everything to get back to it. And that is when they look at him like they've seen a ghost here. And Scout/Doc Hammond starts hauling off on Eddie Chandler, hauls off on Nate Johnson. Crowd's losing their mind here. This gets a 67. He is just going off on these two guys and eventually sends them out of the ring. And then he goes over, he looks down at the fallen one-man Army in the corner. Scout extends the hand, pulls up his old friend, and we get these two standing there, staring at each other, and then nothing else. They're just standing there, got a sort of a handshake here, but then they turn their attention to Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson, who are on the outside again, looking like they've seen a ghost here, and it is the official reuniting of these two, the former tag team, the legendary tag team. They have now found their way back to each other, and it was just as we sort of had been setting it up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Doc Hammond did not want to be the one to sort of pull the trigger here, to be the one to finish off One-Man Army. It all started back at Battleground. The pay-per-view essentially themed after these guys, and he wouldn't do it. He beat him in the match, but he didn't want to completely put him all the way out, right? And so that led to Wolf Hawkins trying to get these two to do it. Then Wolf demanded that, Hammond be the one to do it. We saw Hammond walk out at where Angels fear to tread. He wouldn't do it. The Elite pushed on him. They haven't been able to find him. He went MIA. He's back, and he's back as Scout here as we get the reuniting of this tag team. And you guys probably know what's on the horizon. So, of course, that also means what? Also means that Doc Hammond is out of the Syndicate. So, is the Syndicate down to Wolf Hawkins, Eddie Chandler, and Nate Johnson? Well, we go to break after this because, again, chaos as Kyle Rhodes is like, we got to take one more break here at Total Wrestling. 67 for the segment. Doesn't do great. After the words, we come back, and Kyle Rhodes says, folks, it has been, what an incredible show this has been. We just saw an unbelievable sequence here with Scout and One Man Army. What is going on right now? What's going on with the Syndicate? And then Kyle Rhodes kind of plays it up. Well, wait a second. Actually, there's something going on with the Syndicate right now. And it is Sean Dokes who has found his way once again. Something's going on in the back. Can we get our video cameras back there? As we hear Kyle Rhodes kind of pointing this out. This gets to 75. So not our usual high point to finish the show. But this, I kind of knew that going in. But we needed to set it up a certain way. So we see the video cameras racing towards Sean Dokes here. And he is, again, on the Syndicate beat, essentially. And we see the Syndicate making their way to the parking lot. And then we kind of get Sean Dokes, who is kind of, holding his ear here, trying to figure out what's going on. And he hears Wolf Hawkins on the phone as Eddie Chandler and Nate Johnson are kind of getting out of there too. And he hears Wolf Hawkins on the phone. And all Sean Dokes sort of hears, I don't know exactly what he said, but all I heard was something about next week. Sean Dokes is kind of looking back at the video camera and reporter style. He's like, I don't know what he said. It was something about next week. That's all I heard. That's all I heard, Kyle Rhodes. I'm sorry. That's all I've got for you. But something about next week, guys. Something about next week. And that is how we go off the air for this edition of Total Wrestling 75, like I said, for the segment. But the bigger story here is, what was Wolf saying on this phone, which we've seen Wolf on, in recent weeks. The video cameras have caught Wolf on this phone over the past couple weeks now. Again, with Sean Dokes around. And so what has our investigative reporter, Sean Dokes, what has he found, or what has he overheard here regarding Wolf and next week? Well, you'll find out next week on Total Wrestling. That's how we wrap up this edition of the show. Gets an 85. So some good stuff here, like we said. A lot of stuff, kind of building different things. But, some very memorable things. We kind of had the first big promo battle between Aaron Andrews and Wolf Hawkins. We have Troy Tornado and Ernest Youngman now challenging for the tag team championships. We know that Wolf's going to take on Human Arsenal next week. We know that Aaron Andrews and Ed Stone are going to team up. Then we saw them kind of actually team up a little bit here to make the save for Sammy Bach on Jay Court and Greg Gage. We saw the reuniting of Scout / One Man Army in an unbelievable sort of turn of events here for the Syndicate. And then something about Wolf Hawkins making a phone call about next week. What will that mean? What will happen? We will find out on the next edition of Total Wrestling. But for now, let's see what we get to before we wrap up. All right, so Total Wrestling, awesome show, fantastic reviews. Let's see what SWF did. Excellent show. So they struck gold. So, hey, good for them. Remo, the MVP of that show. For that one, let's get to our email, which I did kind of pull up here before doing it. 3.64 for the rating. We'll see what that looks like here on that. So, Rating Center. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, viewership, we once again lead the way. Doing quite well here, all things considered. 85 for our show. SWF got 79. Rating, 3.64. So we've made moves here, have we, over the past little while. But yeah, that was a very, sort of loaded edition of Total Wrestling. But as you guys are going to see, this is Total Mayhem month. These editions of Total Wrestling are going to be amped up, the likes of which we probably have not done before. So, because we're building to our biggest show, and we got a lot to get in before we get there to kind of push some of these stories forward. So, yeah, we got a lot to do, but it's kind of fun, and these will be pretty jam-packed editions of Total Wrestling here over the next several weeks. But again, I appreciate you guys always. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check out, if you haven't already, we started the new WWE 2024 save. So if you want to check that out, several episodes in, we are kind of waiting for the finish of the Royal Rumble to start booking that series. But already 3 episodes, kind of looking at some different options and me kind of fantasy booking the Rumble in terms of maybe how I would do it, how I think WWE could do it. And that will play into our save moving forward once we officially get that started after the Royal Rumble, so you can check that out as well. As always, if you're into the C-Verse, I've got the Exploring the C-Verse series. I haven't put any new episodes on that in a while, but we have like almost, I think, 30 the starting companies we've already looked at, so you can go check all those out if you want to do that. Kind of a fun little stroll through the C-Verse there if you want to do that. But again, a lot of fun stuff here with this TCW save. We just saw, Scout and Guide getting back together, a tag team essentially. Are they back as a unit? A lot of fun stuff kind of built throughout this episode, building to the Wolf versus Aaron Andrews match, and whatever Wolf's talking about with next week should be another huge edition of the show. So, again, I appreciate you guys always. Thanks for the great feedback. And on the next episode of our TCW Save, it will be Total Wrestling for May Week 2.